Hey family, MarshaunO here. Let's talk about your childhood trauma and how it affects you in your romantic relationships. So here's the thing. Most people have experienced some type of childhood trauma. Some are worse than others, but none of us really escape the effects of our childhood and ultimately how our childhood shapes us into who we become as adults. Did you know that 2/3 of children have experienced some type of trauma? And trauma could be physical, right? It could be emotional, it could be spiritual, and that's the same thing for adults. But 2/3 of our babies have experienced some type of childhood trauma, which ultimately goes into adulthood, right? And so, did you also know that 1 out of 8 adults have experienced some type of abuse while being in a romantic relationship as an adult? Now, let's just think about those statistics for a moment. If 2/3 of our babies have experienced some type of trauma, that means that 2/3 of you who are watching this have experienced some type of childhood trauma. And if you've been following my channel for any amount of time, you already know that my childhood trauma was what therapists consider to be little t trauma. So that's little t trauma. And it's because my dark skin, when I was younger, I got teased about my dark skin. And some people take their childhood traumas, some could be worse than others, as I already mentioned, right? But me, I took it and ran with it. I took it as if nobody liked me, nobody loved me, because I have this chocolate skin that I was graced and blessed with. Now I see it as a blessing, but as a child, not being selected for or chosen last when it comes to guys choosing the girls, I was the darkest of the siblings. I was the darkest of my friends. And so listening to boys at the time mention how they were not attracted to me because of my dark skin, I never actually heard how ugly I was, if you will. It was just 100% about my dark skin. And so I internalized that, took it and ran with it, and allowed that to affect my self-esteem and my self-confidence for decades. I really didn't start coming into my own until I moved away from my childhood home and away from my childhood town, and I joined the United States Navy, where I was able to become and show up as MarshaunO. I had to really embrace my dark skin. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, once I left home, that insecurity with my dark skin was literally all about me. Because when I left home, I never heard a single solitary thing. Actually, that's not true. I heard one thing from a guy that was walking in the mall when I was working in retail. But that's beside the point. Basically, non-existent mention of my skin. And so if you know me in person, you know that I'm a very confident, have very high self-esteem and everything. So that's not the issue nowadays, right? But here's the thing. When I was dating, my little t trauma affected me while I was dating, because I never once took it and looked at it as the guy didn't want to date me because of another flaw. It just about 100% always came back to, I must not be light enough for him. I must not be pretty enough for him because my skin was dark. It never dawned on me that I was clingy. How did I know? Because I asked. So I found out I was clingy. I found out I was acting like a quote unquote child whenever I heard the word no, right? I would pout and go down the road of, woe is me, because I heard the word no. But it never dawned on me that that was the thing until I asked the right questions. I always went back to my dark skin, right? And so I had to learn how to love me, all of me, accept me, all of me, before I was even ever asking someone else to do that for me and to me, right? Because if I didn't love myself, if I didn't think I was beautiful inside and out, if I didn't show up in a way where I had high self-esteem and high confidence, right? And being the intelligent woman that I am, and just showing up and just being me, because I can be very silly, laugh all the time, which was also, I found that was a defense mechanism, because whenever I would get teased as a child for my dark skin, I would laugh it off. So I was never the confrontational person either. I would just laugh it off so you can get up off me, but also you would think that you were not hurting my feelings because I never once cried. But I would cry just later on when I was no longer in your presence. So even to this day, I actually have this nervous laughter that I don't even realize that I'm doing it because it's such an innate part of who I am. But I do understand that it did come from when I was experiencing my childhood trauma and my little T trauma of being teased. Now, here's the thing. I have other siblings that were teased about the same thing and they didn't take it the same way that I did. So just like you, the trauma or abuse that you sustained in your relationships, whether you were a child or whether you were in an adult or relationship, you might handle it one way, and if you tell the story to someone else and they've experienced what you've experienced, very similar experiences, they might not have taken it the way that you did or internalized it the way that you did. And that's okay because each of us experience our abuse or our childhood traumas differently. We internalize it differently. We take everything in. And so how this shows up in your relationship is where your attachment styles come into play. So if I was a person that felt like I was abandoned, for example, right? My parents never came home. They never felt like they paid me any attention. Whenever I woke up, when I went to bed, they were there. When I woke up, they were nowhere to be found. And so I had to take care of myself. If that was my childhood trauma or what I felt like was abuse, right? Whenever I am in a dating situation and the guy doesn't answer my phone call or he doesn't call me back, or if he wants to hang out and do something without me, I might get very anxious. And whenever and that's an attachment style, an anxious attachment style. So whenever you're an anxious person, you automatically think the worst, right? You automatically want to cling on and hold on tighter to the person so you feel safe, not realizing what you're actually causing the other person to do is to pull away because they're trying to figure out, hey, I just want to hang out. I just want some me time. I just want to be alone today. It doesn't mean that we're breaking up. It doesn't mean that I'm leaving you, but not understanding your background, right? Because maybe you've never been able to articulate the fact that you felt abandoned as a child, and now this is showing up in your romantic relationship, right? Or you could be a very secure person. So a very secure attachment style looks like this. Your partner is not paying you the time of day, or you ask them to do 1, 2, 3 things. They have said no to everything. So a secure person is not going to necessarily take that personally. They're going to ask some more follow-up questions just to get down to what's actually happening with their partner or with their spouse. Or if nothing is happening, right, they're not going to internalize it and say, the world is crumbling because my spouse does not want to hang out with me. They're not really attached to what the outcome is, but they do show up and put themselves out there and remain vulnerable when it's appropriate for them, whether they get a yes or whether they get a no. They're not attached to the outcome, so it doesn't really matter. But they also know that the only way to get what they need out of life is to put themselves out there and to ask the things that they want. Right? And so now today, so before I was an anxious attachment style, me personally, but now I'm a very secure person and attachment style. And I know that even when, right? And I'm not even saying that it doesn't happen. Even when me and my husband actually get into a tiff, a rift, or an argument, I don't worry about the outcome. I don't automatically go toward, oh, we're about to break up. Oh, we're about to go through a divorce. It's just, we're disagreeing and we'll talk about it later, right? That's what a secure attachment style looks like. So although I experienced some trauma, which more than likely the bulk of you who are watching this have experienced some type of trauma, yours might have been 10 times, 20 times as worse. You might have experienced the exact same thing and took it differently, right? It might not even been something that was your thing to latch on to hold on to, and it affected your self-esteem or your self-confidence like it did me, right? That's the extent of my abuse and my trauma as a child. But I've coached many clients, right? And I know that there have been some some rapes, some molestations, some incest, and there's just other deeper things that other people have to deal with outside of what I've dealt with, right? So I don't know all the answers to everything. I've never experienced everything that there is to experience in life. It's just impossible to do. However, I do understand that when you're insecure, when you're insecure as a child, if you don't start the healing process, now please hear me, because this really is the key. If you don't start your healing process, the child in you will show up in your adult relationship. And here's the thing: if you have not started or on the road to healing and getting the help that you need, then whenever you experience, for example, maybe your thing was abandonment, right? So whenever you feel like you have been abandoned or are being abandoned in your adult relationship, what you do is you revert back to when you felt that as a child, when that happened, when your parent was nowhere to be found, or when you felt left alone or nobody was paying you any attention. That's when you feel abandoned. And so with your partner, what most people don't understand is that when you're in a relationship with somebody that has an abandonment issues, it really has nothing to do with that very moment, but you triggered the childhood trauma within them, and now they really have reverted back to that moment, and now they are stuck in time, right? So it really has nothing to do with the today moment. It has something to do with what happened back then. But most people don't know that, and they're definitely not able to articulate, hey baby, it has nothing to do with you today. You just triggered me, so now let me figure out why this keeps triggering me, right? We're not asking the right questions, because sometimes we don't know the questions to ask, but then also we don't want to face what's underneath that question. And so if you have watched this far, I really want to invite you to my Happy Spouse, Happy House Summit, where we're going to be tackling some of these deeper conversations and these deeper issues that we're having within our community, within the Black couples, right? Because I am really on the road to decreasing the divorce rate while simultaneously increasing the marriage rate, one couple at a time. This is for Black men and Black women only. I really want to help you to bring all of that junk that's been stuck down inside of you, that's causing you illnesses, because most people don't understand that some of your illnesses that are in you is because it's coming from some of the stuff that you have been carrying around with you for years and years and years. And I want to help you to start to release some of that stuff, so you can be super confident, so you can be super secure in your attachment style, and or on the road to being that secure woman or that secure Black man. Because here's the thing: being successful within our relationships is not just for everybody else. It is for Black people. So come and get the information, the tools, the strategies that you need from me and my friend Donald Morton. We are going to be talking about this live Thursday only, February 24th. I will have the link down in the description box below. Go ahead and click on it. It's bit.ly/Happy Spouse, Happy House. The first H in happy is capitalized. So Happy Spouse, Happy House, all one word. And I would love to see you there, because we're going to have prizes. We're going to be giveaways. Any of the couples that are there who are brave enough to come on stage, we're going to give some live coaching right then and there, where you can get the answers that you need, so you can be on the road to being a successful, powerful couple, so you too can be a part of the top 1% of couples that have extraordinary relationships. I cannot wait to see you there. You do not have to suffer in silence, and you do not have to feel like you're alone. As I already mentioned when I opened up this video, 2/3 of our babies have experienced some type of trauma, and 1 in 8 adults have experienced some type of abuse in their romantic relationship. So if you're dealing with any of this stuff, please come to the summit. Again, bit.ly/Happy Spouse, Happy House. That's our summit that we're having this February 24th, this Thursday only. I will see you there. Bye now. Have a great day.